This program is rated PG. It contains themes and scenes which may not be suitable for very young audiences. Parental guidance is advised.
Be advised that the views and opinions of the hosts and guests do not reflect those of the station.
Philippines, good evening. Naimbag garabi, masantos siya sa labid kayo amin. Maya pa bengi keka marahin na banggi sa Indugapos maupay nga gabi ha iyong Luzon, Visayas, Mindanao up to Sabah. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi taala barakatuh. Ito po ang inyong Republika at ako si Eric Espina. Ang isa sa mga headlines ngayon na lumabas, papakita lang natin sa Manila Times. Ito po yung nakalagay dito. Ito. Kung nakikita ninyo, ayan. Don't lose any sleep over those Chinese bombers. Nagkataon po, Manila Times po ang pinapakita ko dahil ang ating makakausap ngayong gabi is a columnist of the Manila Times. He's also a professor of geopolitics and journalism in the Lyceum of Manila. And we're very glad to have Gil Santos with us, Professor Gil Santos.
It's my pleasure.
Yes.
Having been invited by you, invited me here. Yes.
Of course. you know, Gil. I had Orly Mercado here maybe almost 6, 7, 8 months ago. I've had Roy Logoles here, but it's very difficult to have Orly Mercado come on board. But he managed to come on board, and he mentioned, he sounded the first alarm, if you remember. During Arab's time, when he was Secretary of National Defense.
Yes.
He said, a creeping invasion.
Yes.
And then, about last year, I wrote in my column, Scarborough Show taken. And this was a question mark, but actually it was an affirmative way of saying that I almost can see it happening.
Yes.
Am I wrong?
No, it has happened, you know, and it's still ongoing. It's progressing. And unless we do something about it, it's going to be the trend, you know. It cannot be checked because the people don't want to check it, because of the size of the PLA, the People's Liberation Army of China, and China's emergence as the second economic power in the world, next to the U.S., you know. And right now, the Chinese believe that, as I said in my column, this is their 21st century, that this is the emergence of China and the decline of the U.S. Therefore, they are going to take over. And to them, since they work in terms of millennials, you know, or 100-year timelines, they have all the patience. And they will be doing it like, yes, creeping.
Invasion.
Creeping. They don't want to fire a shot. Remember, the Chinese author of The Art of War says the best thing to do is to conquer the enemy without firing a shot. And that's what they're trying to do.
So you're saying, therefore, that everybody's forgetting this term. The creeping invasion has been ongoing.
Yes, it has been ongoing. And I believe it started in 2000, year 2000.
Gil, let me ask you a question. Is the problem creeping invasion or the problem creeping accommodation?
Both. Both. Because you cannot have one without the other.
And can you really blame them? Or should we blame ourselves?
Without pointing any finger at anybody, we should blame ourselves. We should reform ourselves. We should reform our culture. We should reform the culture of subservience to a foreign power.
Okay.
You know, you go back to our history and our culture. You can trace it back to the Spanish period.
Yes.
When they thought, our forefathers thought they're inferior.
Yes.
And therefore, yes, we did accommodate them.
Yes.
But that accommodation has been abused.
Uh-huh.
You can start from the Spaniards
Uh-huh.
to the Americans,
Yes.
to the Japanese that interrupted our independence movement,
Yes.
and then back to the post-war rehabilitation period. It's been so.
I'm a very proud Cebuano. That's why I talk about Lapu-Lapu, which is, by the way, the favorite hero of our president. And I'm just trying to imagine if we could bring Lapu-Lapu amidst what's happening in the West Philippine Sea. At that time, he was looking at 3 big ships of the Spaniards, compared to what they call in Cebuano mga baroto, which is these are just small little.
I know what baroto is because I lived in Iloilo during the Japanese period.
Oh, and then, but what did Magellan say? Did Magellan say, hindi natin kaya to? I mean, looking at those big ships, you know, I mean, and they just had swords and arrows and spears against, you know.
Yes.
And so, but did he say, hindi natin kaya to? Or hindi
Lumaban.
tayo lalaban kasi mamamatay itong yung mga kababaihan natin. But he did not, sa Bisaya pa, wa ni kakak, you know, he did not, hindi bumahag yung buntot. What can we learn from that?
What we can learn from that is the change of our culture of subservience to a foreign power.
Okay.
Yeah, because that feeling of inferiority has been hammered into our minds and the forefathers' minds for almost 500 years by the Spaniards. But then we had a chance because the Americans gave us universal education. Then we should have done it. You know?
Okay.
Without saying we made a mistake. I'd say that the war that intervened in during our Commonwealth period, our way to independence from the U.S., was actually a break in that direction. Therefore, the trend was broken, and everything else was laid aside.
The palace, to be fair, says they are concerned.
Yeah.
But we shouldn't lose sleep.
I would not agree with that. I would not agree. Because like I said, the Chinese does something directly the opposite of what they talk about. They say they have not been conquered, they have not invaded anybody.
Yes.
But if you go back to history, let's look at what China was. You know? It was a set of different tribes all over the place, which is a big geographical location. And what happened?
Different kingdoms.
Came the Huns, you know, the golden horde of the Mongols.
Yes.
United them, and how were they united? By brute force. The horsemen, you know, and the swordsmen and the archers of the Huns were so cruel and so brutal, and that's how they got their own civilization. So they did not conquer anybody. They did not invade anybody. Yes, they did. Except they didn't invade any nation, yes. But they assimilated. They call it assimilation.
By force.
By force. Now,
all the other tribes and all the other warring kingdoms.
In short, what I'm saying is, I do suspect and I do believe, not merely suspect, that the Chinese diplomacy is interlaced with their deception. They play with words. They want to assimilate. Well, how do they assimilate? They assimilate by building on the reefs in the South China Sea, claiming it is theirs. No? While it's true that the Chinese claimed it, it is not this communist China that claimed it. It was the nationalist Chinese.
Yes, it's Taiwan.
Of Chiang Kai-shek.
And they copied the Chiang Kai-sheks.
Yeah. No, not only copied, they took over. Because Chiang Kai-shek could not be opposed by the U.S. at that time, since they were all together with the five. The U.S., China, Russia, France, and Great Britain as the big five allies of the World War II. And therefore, they were victorious. They were the founders of the United Nations General Assembly. And so what happened? They became the permanent members, 5 permanent members of the Security Council of the UN, the only ones with the veto power. And therefore, China believes now that they can do it. They talk nice. They talk you with one belt, one road.
In short, the United
one
Nations is not a democracy. It's still diplomacy, but carry a big stick in order to do the veto.
It's not even a diplomacy.
It's
as
not.
far as
It's
they're
not a democracy.
concerned.
It's not a democracy.
No.
By number, it's still carrying a big
see,
a big stick.
They claim that they had an election last October,
Yes.
and they elected Xi Jinping
Yes.
as president.
Yes.
To me, because of the monolithic structure of the Chinese government, it's still communistic dictatorship, and
Yes.
therefore they had a selection,
Yes.
not an election.
Yes,
you know?
yes, yes.
And what did they do? They elected him for not for life. Again,
Okay.
this is semantics, because they elected him for as long as he wanted to be president.
That sounds like the U.S. Supreme Court justices, where they have a life tenure.
Yes, yes.
It's actually a life tenure. They quit when they decide to quit, but you can't make them quit.
Exactly, yeah.
The palace is saying we can't lose sleep, and besides, even if there are bombers being built there, we're friends with China.
Well,
Isn't that okay?
if it is okay as far as I'm concerned, if China would sign a non-aggression pact with us and all the members of the ASEAN.
Okay, and there's none.
Because that will assure the ASEAN that they will not be bullied, they
Okay.
will not be invaded.
Uh-huh.
Although, to my mind, there is no real assurance when you sign any treaty with anybody. Because Hitler proved it. you
Yes,
know.
yes, of course.
He signed
Yes.
a non-aggression pact
Yes,
with Russia.
yeah.
But what did he do?
Yes.
He invaded. The same thing with Poland. You know?
Same with Britain.
Same with Britain.
Same with
My God,
Britain.
Before that,
Yes.
yeah. The same-
It
the
became
same-
appeasement instead of it being a peace deal. It became appeasement.
Exactly.
Is that what we're doing? Are we doing a Chamberlain in this case?
Almost. The only thing.
Why do you say almost?
Almost, because we have not yet done what Chamberlain did
Which is?
in 1939.
Which is?
He went to Hitler,
Uh-huh.
talked to Hitler, and Hitler said, "No, I want Sudeten land."
Yeah.
Because Sudeten, a part of Poland at
Yeah.
the time, was people minority
By Germanic.
Germany,
Yeah.
by Germans.
Yeah, yeah.
And they said they speak German, therefore they are Germany. That's part of Germany, and I will support that.
And Britain
you know.
agreed to it. As a
Why?
compromise, yes.
Because that was the only way. Hitler told Chamberlain, "That's the only way I won't go to war."
But aren't we receiving so much economic packages? I mean,
No, but let's go back to Hitler for a minute.
Yeah, okay, go.
So Hitler said that 3 days later,
Yeah, I
he
know.
invaded Poland.
Exactly.
September 3rd, 1939, he invaded Poland.
But defenders of the China diplomacy are saying, Philippines is gaining from so much economic packages and so much promises. Have we really felt these economic packages and the promises?
No. In fact, if you look at the record and you look at the figures in our NEDA,
Yeah.
you will find that Japan has sent more money in cash for the aid that they said they're going to give us for infrastructure. You see?
So Japan is giving more than.
Of course. You know.
Okay. What can our guests say about beware of guests bringing gifts when we return?
Okay.